So I'm going to review Flash Season 8 as a whole because the season is now over. And honestly, the Flash Season 8 was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I think that overall it was much stronger than Seasons 5 and 7, especially Season 7. Like, you guys don't understand how much I was considering dropping the show after Season 7. Season 7 has some of the worst stuff I've ever seen in anything, TV-wise. So after that season, I genuinely was worried about if I was going to have like a future watching Flash, like if this was going to be a show I could bear to watch anymore, just because it was disappointing me so many times. So the fact that they started Season 8 with Armageddon was probably the absolute best move they could have taken. Because doing Armageddon, pretty much a light crossover. It was crossover without actually calling it a crossover. And it meant that the Flash had eyes on it for the first time in years. It had like huge eyes on it. Because I remember on Twitter when the screenshots were coming out for Armageddon, of like Barry in the Reverse Flash suit, of Thawne in the Flash suit, the new Reverse Flash suit, and just all of this cool stuff. Everyone was talking about it. People who hadn't watched The Flash in years or who had heard how bad Season 7 was and decided to avoid it were now going like, this looks really cool, maybe I should come back to this. So doing Armageddon at the beginning of the season was probably the best plan they could have done. And then ending the season with an arc that wrapped up Matt Letscher's Thawne, more or less, wrapped up the original Eobard Thawne, brought back John Diggle, all this sort of stuff was perfect. So they started strong and they ended strong, which is already so much better than what a lot of the other Flash seasons have done. But it's a lot of that middle stuff that I think is a bit mixed and doesn't really land as well as maybe it could have. Now, I think we all kind of know at this point that The Flash Season 8 was originally meant to be the final season, or a lot of it was written around the fact that this was going to be like the final outing for the show. Apparently Eric Wallace did not know if the show was going to get renewed, which is kind of crazy to think about, that the Flash of all shows might not have gotten renewed. We could have been in a scenario where The Flash was cancelled just like Legends and just like Batwoman. But unlike Legends and Batwoman, Flash and Eric were really planning for this to be a final season in case they didn't get renewed. And it really does show. There's a lot of elements happening in this season that feel like it's bringing stuff back and giving kind of closure to it. Like Ronnie Raymond sort of returning and the Deathstorm thing and even some Eddie Thawne in there. It feels like a lot of what was going on here was very much meant to give closure to a lot of characters that a lot of people have been like, I wonder if they're ever going to come back. Now, yeah, we didn't really get the actual Eddie, we didn't really get the actual Ronnie, but it was still really nice to see those faces again after they'd been gone from the show for so long. Because, like, I still strongly believe that the real Ronnie and the real Eddie are alive somewhere out there. And we now know after the final that Cobalt Blue could be a big part of next season. Probably only an arc villain. I don't think they're going to go back to doing full villains after the last 3 seasons have been so kind of graphic novel based. But I think it's possible we'll see Eddie as Cobalt Blue next season, and it'll be the original Eddie, like the version that we remember from season 1, which will be really awesome to see. But I think that there were some great ideas going on here around the middle part of the season. Like that whole kind of more or less Black as Night from the comics arc without the lanterns was really great in theory. Like it sounded really, really, really interesting. But I don't think the execution was there for it. And I kind of feel the same for Armageddon. I don't think Armageddon was near as strong as any of the actual crossovers. My problem with Armageddon was that it had some absolutely fantastic stuff, but then it also had some of the worst stuff the show has had in general. Like, I thought that, for example, the Allegra and Chester stuff in Armageddon felt like it was straight out of Season 7 of the show. I feel like it was that bad. Then we also had some episodes focused on characters this season that we just didn't really need or we didn't really care about. And that's another problem that I kind of have with current Flash, is that Eric Wallace really likes to do interlude episodes in between graphic novels, because he seems to really think that you need kind of these calm down or filler episodes right after doing a huge kind of event. And these filler episodes would be fine if they were more kind of in line with like what we would get in Season 1 or Season 2, where it's just Team Flash dealing with a one episode meta sort of thing. Instead, though, we're dealing with characters that we don't really care about, and they're getting entire episodes centered around them, while Barry or Iris aren't even in the show. And I don't think these interlude episodes are needed. I think if they were as strong as Season 1, yeah, I wouldn't mind them. But doing them when they're really weak, and it's really noticeable that they are weak, isn't the best idea. I think that the interlude episodes in general have done a really huge job at bringing the show down. Like, Season 8 would be a much stronger, more consistent season if those interlude episodes didn't exist. But that's just how I kind of feel about it. But the show did still have a lot of moments where I was like, this really feels like early Flash. Armageddon, I kind of like don't like talking about Armageddon too much because it is very much a crossover sort of thing. But like episode 2 of Armageddon, where we have Barry shutting down Star Labs, that was the most that I've liked Chester and Allegra in the entire show. I thought they really, really, really worked in those episodes. Then I also thought that kind of getting rid of Star Labs, getting rid of Gideon, was a huge direction to take the show. I thought that was going to be a great direction and kind of the shake-up that the show needed. Unfortunately, they sort of reverted it. But that moment, I was like, this is the most into the Flash I've been since season 2. And then that was brought back in the final few episodes when we had tons of characters return, when we had kind of the final wrap up of Eobard Thawne, we had Matt Letscher back, we had a new character called Mina introduced who I absolutely loved. I was like, this is the most I've been interested and into the show since the early years. This is fantastic. And I think that if the show had been that consistent throughout the entire season, this would honestly be easily on par with seasons 1 and 2. But the fact that there's so many little interlude things and things like the Deathstorm arc wasn't really exactly executed as well as we would have needed, that kind of downed the season a little bit for me. On top of that, I feel like there were a lot of characters and events just forgotten about. Like after the Deathstorm arc, Caitlin basically isn't in the season. She appears like once an episode, or Danielle Panabaker appears like once an episode. She wasn't even in the final, we just get a voiceover of her. And I felt like it was kind of a character that was forgotten about. Then the same thing happened with Iris. Iris was barely in a lot of the season, and it felt like her character was sort of forgotten about. Like, she was trapped somewhere for most of the season, and Barry didn't even seem to care. Like, it was kind of crazy. And I understand that it was kind of hard to get certain people on set at certain times, but I still think they could have done a better job at kind of getting the cast or getting the characters to really relay that they are missing a certain character or they are worried about a certain character. They don't know how somebody is, sort of thing. But just in general, I was really kind of happy with this season. I thought it was extremely solid and much better than what we've been used to lately. I thought that the first half of season 6 was really good, but I honestly am starting to think I might put season 8 above that. I'm not entirely certain yet. I'm going to put out a flash ranking in a few days that will probably kind of solidify where I want kind of the seasons to be. But so far I'm thinking season 8 is kind of up there. And not sure yet whether I would prefer it to season 4. I would not prefer it to season 3 because I think season 3 was a season that had mistakes, had missteps, but is still better than a lot of what we got later in the show. And season 8, it was solid. It was better than what I expected it to be, honestly. I think starting strong and finishing strong definitely kind of changed how I felt about it, because while in the middle part of the season I was just really bored, I think that the fact that they ended strong is kind of recency bias on me. It's like, you know, you start the season, you love it, you end the season, you love it. It's kind of hard to remember a lot of what was meh in between. But yeah, how did you feel about The Flash Season 8? Did you like it? Did you hate it? We're hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers this year, so if you're not subscribed, please do so, and like and share this video and all of that, and I hope you have a great day.